as your career progressed, you started to do your thing. Things started really falling in place for you, aside from the hamstring tear. But then the injury started mounting up, man, and you had to make a hard decision. How difficult was it for you to put away the game that you love and walk away?
Oh man, that was the worst ever, right? And Marvin is one, and a few other people like they didn't hear until years later how my depression and suicidal situations and thoughts. They didn't know. They had no clue because on the surface I played like I was cool, but on the inside when I would get by myself, that's when all of it would hit. But no, I made that decision when I found out I had a neck injury. When a doctor comes in and tell you, hey, it's a 50-50 chance that 50% chance that you'll never have an issue is a 50% chance you'll be paralyzed the rest of your life. I'm like, that's not. I mean, I'm a safety in the NFL. That's not the kind of odds you want to hear.
Right.
And at that point, my oldest son was at that point 2 years old. So I'm as I'm contemplating, like, man, I'm gonna go and play this. It's gonna be all good. They can patch me up. We can get going. At that point, I'm playing with my 2 year old, right? And I'm sitting here like, what kind of life is he gonna have if I go and make this decision and go out here and walk on this field, take this risk, and I end up paralyzed? Then what, right? So I could have kept playing, was still having teams calling my agent, they're interested. But as soon as I got that report, it took about 2 weeks, and I made a decision that, hey, it's over. And I walked away as an unrestricted free agent. So I truly faded to black, because nobody knew. I wasn't on any teams. It was just a situation where I told my agent, hey, if anybody calls, I'm no longer playing. So tough, man.
What I know.
You could have called anybody. You could have called me because I know them battles all too well.
True.
And I know we're running short on time, but I do have to ask, what helped you overcome that depression and that battle with the suicidal thoughts?
Man, a large part, I would say I'll have to give kudos to my wife, because she just would never let me and we were just friends. We weren't even really that close at that point, to the point where I was loving her enough to say, let's get married. But she as a friend was like, she would not let me fall. She would not let me succumb. She would come in, and because at that point I was nocturnal, man. I was up all night and I would sleep during the day. So she would come in and open the curtains and do all this kind of stuff, man, and say, hey, you need to get up. Let's go do something. I'm like, I don't want to do nothing. So between that, had to renew my faith. And quite candidly, if it wasn't for my kids, man, it'd probably be totally different. I'll be honest.
Completely understand.
Yeah. And then after that, I didn't start sharing this story really until, man, about 4 or 5 years ago. So we're talking about going over 10 years, over a decade before I was even sharing it, before my mom and my parents even knew. When I shared it the first time publicly, that was the first time my mom had heard it. And that was like in around 2015, 2016.
Wow.
Because it's not an easy thing to do. Because I didn't tell my mom till 2014, 15 years later.
Right. It's tough. It's tough. People don't understand. I mean, we do as former players, but on the outside, people look at it and just think, hey, they got it all. They're fine. They got all the support they need. It's not the case, right? It is what you make it, and a lot of us, after you've been trained all these years, that to put all that aside, and once you get them in between those lines, nothing matters anymore. It's hard to transition when you no longer have that outlet. You don't have the outlet to go and knock somebody out. You don't have the outlet, to
Right.
be in the locker room and joke around with players. At this point, you just by yourself, right? And that the still of the night and the silence of the night is not what's good for you at that time.
But the hardest part is watching all your friends play. That is the hardest damn part.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch football for a few years.
Likewise.
Took me a few years to even.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise. And people don't understand why you don't watch the game. I'm like, I don't know what I want to watch it for, right? Because
Right.
I mean,
I can
dang,
watch the TV.
Tom Brady made it hard because I'm sitting there like I'm trying to wait until everybody that I played against is no longer playing to start watching. This dude, I'm like, dude, I had to start watching between him and Drew. I'm like, man, are y'all ever gonna stop? Because Drew Brees was the same year. Tom Brady was drafted a year before I was. So how I feel now looking at my kids, they looking at me like, oh, Dad, they were drafted the same year as you, and actually Brady was before you, and you here and they still there. Like, hey.